No event arises without cause. This is, perhaps, the most direct and, simultaneously, most unsettling statement you will hear today. After all, if nothing happens by chance, then every outcome you have experienced up to this point, every triumph, every setback, every overdue bill, and every synchronicity, was brought about by you. It is peculiar to contemplate this, isn't it? The mind promptly seeks to refute, impossible. I would never choose to suffer, fail, be deceived, or make mistakes. However, the cosmos does not react to what you verbalize as a desire. It reacts to the frequency you radiate. The entirety of existence is composed of energy. Without exception. Your body, the atmosphere, the seat you are in, the wealth you yearn for, and even the opportunities that seem to materialize out of thin air. All are attracted by a certain vibration. And your vibration is defined by what you emotionally experience, mentally envision, and continuously accept as truth. No external manifestation solidifies before originating within you. I recall the period when I worked as a firefighter. I earned approximately a few thousand US dollars annually and was convinced that this was the absolute limit of my potential. There seemed to be no alternative. On one occasion, an individual named Raymond Stanford gifted me a book, Think and Grow Rich. I was completely unaware that its content would radically transform my perspective. It led me to an understanding that, even today, underpins all my teachings. It is not the environment that shapes you, but rather you who shapes the environment, through your vibrational energy. Has it ever occurred to you to wonder why certain individuals seem to possess an almost supernatural fortune? Everything they undertake seems to flow easily, paths open up at the precise moment, opportunities arise exactly when they are most needed. And, simultaneously, there are others who, no matter how hard they strive, seem perpetually to swim against the current. The reality is that such a phenomenon has nothing whatsoever to do with chance, fate, or random events. Existence does not roll dice. It merely mirrors what each being is energetically radiating. Nothing that manifests is arbitrary, everything constitutes a vibrational reaction. Most people live as if events happen to them, but the fact is that everything originates due to their own action. There is a principle that governs this landscape, a law as precise as gravitational attraction. You may not perceive it, but it never errs. It shows no favoritism, pronounces no verdicts, grants no rewards, nor inflicts sanctions. It simply corresponds to the frequency you maintain. Imagine yourself as a living transmitter, propagating a vibration with every idea, every feeling, every belief you nurture. And the cosmos, like a flawless radio station, returns precisely the same hue of energy. If your energy resonates with fear, the universe replicates with scenarios that intensify that fear. If it radiates security, it grants experiences that anchor security. I myself experienced this reality firsthand before deciphering what was truly unfolding. There were days when I awoke exhausted, disappointed, reflecting on all the shortcomings, on what I lacked, and unbeknownst to me, I dedicated my entire day to fostering additional reasons to feel exactly that way. Nothing progressed, traffic worsened, human interactions became harsher, and my body even felt heavier. It was as if the entire planet was conspiring against me. However, the planet was not against me, I was the one broadcasting the wrong transmission. My frequency was tuned to lack, and the universe, in compliance, delivered more of that very circumstance. Observe, the cosmos doesn't understand words, it discerns frequencies. You can utter, "I desire abundance," 1,000 times, but if inner unrest, nervousness, and disbelief prevail, that is the message it will assimilate. It doesn't respond to what you declare to aspire to, but rather to what you perceive yourself to be. For this reason, it is ineffective to express, "I believe," if, at your core, a persistent fear of failure lingers. This vibrational incongruence generates interference in the transmission and obstructs the intrinsic flow of abundance. At this moment, pause and reflect for a brief period. How many times have you sought to alter something in your existence, a job, a relationship, a financial condition, and, invariably, return to square one? This manifests because your attempt was to modify the consequence and not the origin. The cause invariably lies in vibrational energy. What we visualize externally is merely the mirroring of what resonates internally. It is analogous to looking in a mirror and trying to change your reflection without changing your facial expression. It's unfeasible. The mirror merely reproduces. The universe proceeds similarly. It's noteworthy to observe that even scientific knowledge progressively approaches this premise. Investigations in the field of quantum physics demonstrate that the observer modifies the behavior of particles merely by directing their attention to them. This implies that perception, the way you apprehend and experience something, substantially alters the outcome. Every conceived idea is a ripple. Every feeling, a cadence. And when you sustain a vibrational pattern continuously, that pattern materializes in the form of events. However, there is a more subtle aspect at play. Vibrational frequency isn't measured by what you ponder sporadically, but rather by what you emotionally experience continuously. A fleeting affection has limited creative capacity, but a sustained emotion transforms into a field of attraction. If you dedicate a considerable portion of your time to complaining, worrying, fearing loss of possessions, it's no surprise that your existence mirrors inconsistency. The cosmos is merely performing its function, projecting the energetic field you nurture daily. The human psyche, however, holds such tremendous power that it can reverse this situation in a few moments. The difficulty lies in the fact that most of humanity doesn't use this ability intentionally. They allow external events to govern their emotional states, instead of using their feelings to modify events. And it is at this point that the greatest pitfall resides. By reacting to what manifests, you are solidifying what manifests. By cultivating gratitude even before witnessing the change, you are engineering the change. I recall an occasion when everything seemed to be falling apart. I was trying to expand my business, but nothing materialized. Expenses piled up, opportunities vanished, and I began to question if my initial success had merely been a fluke. One day, alone in the empty office, I noticed that I was emanating fear, self-reproach, and discouragement. I turned my gaze inward and reflected, if the cosmos is a reflection, this is what it's showing me. Then I closed my eyelids and changed the mental scene. I began to experience gratitude for what had not yet materialized, beheld my corporation flourishing, envisioned happy individuals collaborating with me, felt the conviction and certainty of one who had already triumphed. Within a few days, new deals began to emerge. It was at that instant that I profoundly assimilated what had previously been merely a concept. Randomness does not exist, the response is invariably precise to the frequency radiated. Therefore, every scenario you are currently navigating, whether favorable or unfavorable, merely constitutes an energetic reaction to something you have already vibrationally manifested. There are no mistakes, no victims, no random events. There is only frequency and congruence. Upon assimilating this truth, something transforms within you. The feeling of helplessness evaporates. For you realize that if you unconsciously created an undesirable reality, you can consciously forge an exceptional one. Thus, the next time something deviates from what's expected, don't ask, why is this happening to me? Instead, ask, what within me is resonating in alignment with this? This interrogation entirely changes the perspective. For it strips authority from external circumstances and restores it to where it should never have been removed, your core. The cosmos makes no errors of destiny. Everything that reaches you does so because it aligns with the same cadence as what you cultivate internally. And the most captivating thing is that by merely changing the vibration, the entirety of existence begins to rearrange itself around that newly established frequency. This is a principle. This is the true essence behind everything you call contingency. It took me multiple years to grasp that we don't magnetize what we crave, but rather what we represent in our essence. This constitutes one of the most impactful and, simultaneously, most demanding realizations one can encounter. For, observe, desiring something is simple. Everyone yearns for an improved existence, more financial resources, greater affection, better well-being, more serenity. However, the cosmos doesn't respond to yearning, it responds to vibration. And the vibration doesn't emerge from what you desire, it stems from what you feel yourself to be. If, intimately, you perceive yourself as a limited, unworthy, or incapable individual, that is the frequency your energy propagates, and that is what the universe returns to you. When starting my first venture, I lacked absolutely everything. No experience, No academic qualifications, no capital. I was just a former firefighter with an aspiration and a mental image that kept me constantly motivated. I envisioned myself leading a thriving corporation, I saw engaged colleagues partnering with me, and I witnessed tangible outcomes. And, crucially, I experienced it as if it were already a reality. I felt the joy, the appreciation, and the security of someone who had already achieved it. Each day I nurtured this vision with feeling, and that's what completely changed the situation. In less than 12 months, I was earning an amount exceeding $100,000. It wasn't luck, it wasn't a coincidence. It was vibration. People ask me what I did to reach that level, and I invariably state, my actions were a direct product of the person I had become. The world doesn't react to your words, it reacts to your energetic essence. It's impossible to outwardly appear as something when, at your core, you emanate the opposite. This is like trying to tune into a classical music station while you're on the rock dial. You can move the radio dial indefinitely, but the desired sound will only emerge when the frequency is precisely tuned. Many people declare, I long for abundance, yet they embody scarcity. I desire love, but they feel isolation. I want well-being, yet they exude fear. The distinction lies in the force that underpins that aspiration. To aspire is a mental process, but to emit a vibration is a state of spirit. And it's the feeling that generates the attractive field, not merely a loose idea. When focusing on financial resources, for example, the cosmos doesn't perceive the phrases, I want resources. It absorbs the feeling you nurture when conceiving such an idea. If the feeling is one of unease, the message transmitted is one of deprivation. And the cosmos, always responsive, responds with more experiences that solidify that absence. I've observed individuals who tirelessly strive, save, dedicate themselves to transforming their lives, and yet remain stagnant. This happens because, deep down, the frequency of limitation still resides. They seek the future, but they emit the past. They aspire to success, but they associate with failure. They desire opportunities, but they anticipate rejections. And it's precisely at this point that the issue lies. The cosmos doesn't provide what you ask for, it mirrors what you believe yourself to be. There was a period when I myself felt confined. Even though I was acquiring more financial resources than ever before, I still harbored an internal perception of unworthiness. It was as if a part of me proclaimed, your education was insufficient. Your abilities aren't complete. And, without realizing it, this emanation of uncertainty began to manifest in the outcomes. Events ceased to progress, clients distanced themselves, and I felt depleted. It was only upon recognizing this internal sabotage at a vibrational level that the situation changed. I stopped desiring more possessions and began to cultivate a higher state of being. I started to reaffirm, experience, and act as a truly deserving being. And the cosmos reacted. This is a phenomenon I frequently witness with countless individuals. They spend many years trying to alter the outcomes, but they rarely change their self-perception. External reality is nothing more than a mirror of internal conception. If at your core reside convictions of deprivation, unworthiness, or regret, such convictions shape your frequency. And no matter the intensity of your work effort, if the emanation is still one of restriction, the cosmos is unable to grant something you are not prepared to receive. A clear illustration of this manifests in individuals who abruptly acquire awards, inheritances, or large sums of money. They acquire a vast volume of financial resources, but, in a short period of time, they return to square one. The reason? Because their energetic blueprint remains identical. The resources arrived, but their self-concept did not transform. The internal vessel was not ready to encompass that profusion. Flourishing is not about an event, but rather an existential condition. Frequency is the language of manifestation. Everything you represent, experience, and comprehend converts into a resonance that projects to the cosmos. If you have conviction in your worthiness, your competence, your wealth, that force diffuses and begins to captivate individuals, eventualities, and circumstances that mirror such certainty. And the inverse equally holds true. The moment you perceive yourself as inadequate, the real world responds with experiences that attest to that inadequacy. Now, immerse yourself in the idea of what would happen if you began to view yourself as someone already fully realized. Not as a being who will achieve a goal, but as someone who already is. Your body would respond differently, your attitude would change, your vocal tone would acquire greater solidity, and even others' perception of you would shift. This is because the cosmos doesn't distinguish the concrete from the idealized when the feeling is genuine. The human mind doesn't discern between a real experience and an intensely felt experience. And it's at this point that the magic begins, when you internalize the existence you desire before it materializes in the external plane. I repeatedly state, you don't need to chase your aspirations, but rather harmonize with them. The moment the resonance becomes congruent, the path unfolds. Synchronicity amplifies. Ideal circumstances appear at the exact moment. This is because everything in congruence pulses together. Such is the principle. The secret isn't in hunting, but in allowing. And to allow is to be. Therefore, ask yourself, what am I manifesting at this very moment? Not what I long for, but what I am emitting as reality about myself. Because it is precisely that which the cosmos will mirror back. You don't summon what you desire, you summon what you believe yourself to represent. And by altering what you are, you inevitably alter what presents itself. Every sensation you experience constitutes a directive. Any feeling you nurture within you dispatches a clear and precise message to the cosmos about what is being generated. And the cosmos, which remains entirely impartial, simply reacts to that vibrational instruction. It doesn't ponder whether what you feel is beneficial or detrimental, equitable or unfair, it merely reproduces the resonance you radiate. Emotional perception is the dialect of manifestation, and it is through it that you sculpt your own existence. Upon assimilating this truth in its fullness, you begin to notice how influential your states of mind are. They transcend the mere condition of trivial reactions, they are generative powers. Fear, regret, fury, all carry a heavy frequency which magnetizes scenarios consistent with that density. On the other hand, gratitude, security, love, and contentment hold elevated resonances, which is why individuals who cultivate these feelings appear to enjoy a smoother journey, with greater flexibility, harmony, and opportunities. This is not coincidental. It is the physics of energy at work. There was a period when I believed that optimistic thinking would suffice. I would compel myself to utter, everything will work out. However, deep down, I harbored uncertainty. I echoed statements of abundance while my true feeling was one of restlessness. And the outcome invariably repeated itself, nothing materialized. It was then that I realized that the cosmos doesn't react to words, it reacts to the emotional resonance underlying them. If I declare, I'm great, with fear in my chest, the directive the cosmos perceives is fear, not the words. The cosmos doesn't understand the verbalized language, it understands the experienced language. There is a considerable distinction between thinking about prosperity and feeling prosperous. Thinking is an intellectual process, feeling is an energetic state. The idea conceives the representation, the feeling confers vitality to that representation. Devoid of emotion, the concept is nothing more than a vague idea. However, when the idea is enveloped by the appropriate emotion, it acquires the precise energetic density to externalize itself. It's comparable to the electricity that illuminates the lamp of materialization. Contemporary research attests to this reality. Investigations conducted by Harvard indicated that favorable emotional states, such as gratitude and enthusiasm, stimulate brain areas responsible for inventiveness, problem-solving, and bodily health. This implies that your emotional condition substantially alters the functioning of your brain. Feelings of euphoria and security broaden your perspective and make you more open to possibilities. Conversely, perceptions of apprehension and deprivation restrict cognition, diminish insight, and place you in a subsistence framework, where everything appears restricted. Hence, in a state of fear, the universe contracts. When in gratitude, the universe expands. I recall an episode that profoundly impressed me. During one of the most challenging phases of my existence, I found myself financially trapped. Debts multiplied, and I saw no solution. One particular night, seated at my desk, I mused, I cannot persist in emanating fear. I closed my eyes, then, and began to cultivate appreciation, even without apparent cause. I expressed gratitude for oxygen, for my physical body, for life, for still possessing an intelligence capable of conceiving the unprecedented. At first, it sounded artificial. But I persisted. And something peculiar happened. After a few moments, the emotion transformed from feigned to authentic. I truly began to experience gratitude. It was one of the most liberating experiences of my journey. In the days that followed, opportunities started to appear. People I had not seen in a period of years contacted me with suggestions. Doors began to open. And no, it was not mere coincidence. It was resonance. Feelings are like radio waves. If your aim is to enjoy a peaceful melody, it is indispensable to tune into the appropriate frequency. It is unfruitful to lament that the rock station is playing if you persist in it. You have to change the dial. And in life, the principle is identical. You cannot long for serenity while radiating annoyance. You cannot expect growth while emanating scarcity. Everything aligns with your emotional landscape. For this reason, I assert that feeling is the instruction. It is what sends the impulse to the quantum field. You can repeat affirmations for several hours, but if nervousness, anger, or fear resides within you, the cosmos will only perceive that. Have you ever tried to smile for no reason and noticed your body starting to react? That is the evidence that you possess the freedom to select what to experience. It is not about denying reality, but about deliberately choosing what you intend to maintain. Do you desire abundance? Then begin the process of feeling prosperous before you even glimpse any outcome. Do you wish to be loved? Start cultivating affection before you even meet anyone. Do you long for health? Begin to experience vitality before your body fully recovers. Emotion precedes the event. First, you perceive, then, you realize. This is the natural trajectory of manifestation. The issue is that most individuals act in the opposite way. They wait to visualize before feeling. They wait for money to arrive to feel secure. They long for love to appear to feel loved. They wait for success to materialize to feel confident. However, the cosmos operates contrarily. You must feel first, because it is the feeling that engenders the reality that will enable the visualization of the outcome. Emotions are energy in motion. And like any energy, they can be altered. Fear can be converted into bravery, ease into favorable expectation, hesitation into conviction. Everything depends on where you opt to direct your attention. In every moment, you hold the power to select what you experience, and this choice is what alters the course of your existence. So, the next time something troubles you, or you feel entangled in an unfavorable pattern, pause for one moment. Breathe deeply and observe what you are feeling. Ask yourself, is this feeling propelling me toward what I desire or pulling me away? If it is pulling you away, change it. Alter it consciously. Do not wait for the world to change first. When you transform the feeling, your vibrational frequency shifts. And when your vibrational frequency shifts, reality reorganizes itself. This is the secret so many overlook. It is not the isolated thought that creates, it is the sustained feeling that shapes. The universe responds to your dominant emotion. Therefore, if you wish to change what you experience, change what you feel. Feel now what you long to experience and observe, gradually, silently, in an almost imperceptible way, the world begin to respond to your new command. Everything you experience externally is merely a mirror of what emanates internally. The world is a reflection, and it does not lie. It returns precisely what you feel, think, and believe most consistently. The reality you call my life is, in fact, a projection of your predominant vibrational frequency. And for this reason, so many individuals change homes, change jobs, change relationships, but continue to face the same obstacles with different faces, different names, but with the same essence. Because, fundamentally, the reflection never changes until the image changes. It is as if someone looked into a mirror and noticed an exhausted face, then tried to correct the reflection by manipulating the glass, wiping their hand across the surface, striving for the mirror to show something better. This is impossible. The reflection only changes when the face changes. And life works precisely like that. Trying to modify external circumstances without altering your internal state is like trying to fix the reflection without touching the source. Everything you see is the result of what you are. For a long period, I also did not comprehend this. I thought I needed to work harder, that I needed to strive more, that the problem lay externally. So, when something was not prospering, I would alter my strategy, change my environment, look for culprits. But the results remained identical. I did not realize that the true field of action was within me. And when I finally understood this, everything became clear. I was trying to alter the effect while the cause remained untouched. You can observe this in all aspects of existence. One individual might leave one job where they did not feel valued and find another, but after some time, the same feeling returns. Why? Because they still emanate a sense of devaluation. They might end one relationship, start another one, and realize that, somehow, the same dynamic repeats itself. Because the vibrational pattern has not changed. The energy they emit continues to attract experiences that corroborate their deepest belief. The universe does not distinguish between correct and incorrect, it merely reflects. If fear resides within you, the world will become a threatening place. If confidence exists within you, the world will seem full of opportunities. Everything depends on the vibrational filter through which you perceive. It is like wearing tinted lenses. If the lenses are red, everything will appear red. You can argue with the world, complain about the colors, blame others, but nothing will change until you remove the lenses. People assume they need to modify others' behavior to be happy. They want their partner to change, their boss to change, the government to change, the weather to change. But the power of transformation resides in something much simpler and much closer. It resides in altering your own vibrational frequency. When you modify the energy with which you react to situations, the situations alter their response. Because the mirror can only reflect what is in front of it. I recall one occasion when I was going through a period of great stress. Everything seemed to go wrong simultaneously: stagnant businesses, debts, accumulated commitments. I was immersed in frustration. One day, I realized that every morning, I woke up thinking about the difficulties. It was the first thing that came to my mind. And that is what I was broadcasting. So, I decided to conduct one experiment. Instead of dwelling on the problem, I started to reflect on what was working. I mentally gave thanks for every small thing that was still good. The warm coffee, the roof over my head, my health. At first, it seemed absurd. But, in a few days, I noticed something extraordinary: my energy had shifted. And, when my energy shifted, people started to react differently. I received unexpected calls, invitations, opportunities that seemed to appear out of nowhere. But nothing arose from nowhere, it came from the mirror that changed because the image had changed. This is the point almost no one grasps: the world is not happening to you, it is happening from you. Everything you see is an extension of your vibrational frequency. When you feel affection, you begin to see more reasons to love. When you feel fear, you begin to see more reasons to fear. The mirror merely amplifies what you are already holding. There is an expression I love to repeat: you do not see the world as it is, you see the world as you are. This means that as long as you continue to emanate at the frequency of scarcity, abundance cannot manifest, not because it does not exist, but because you are not in tune to perceive it. It is like trying to tune into a radio station that broadcasts at 105.7, but your tuner is set to 97.3. The signal is being emitted, but you cannot hear it until you align yourself. Therefore, when you modify how you feel, the universe immediately begins to reorganize events to reflect this new state. Sometimes, people expect grand signs, but the first indication of change is subtle. They are small events: one problem that resolves more easily, one cordial person who crosses your path, one idea that emerges at the opportune moment. This is not mere coincidence, it is vibrational correspondence. Life is not a random force pushing you from one side to the other. It is a continuous response to your vibrational frequency. You are the emitter and the receiver. The world is merely the screen onto which your energy is projected. So, if what is being projected is not pleasing, do not blame the screen, change the movie. And the movie is composed of thoughts, feelings, and beliefs. The moment you comprehend this, a feeling of empowerment and freedom begins to emerge within you. You realize that you do not need to battle with the reflection, you do not need to try to control circumstances, people, or time. All you need is to align internally with what you wish to see externally. It is one discrete work, but profoundly transformative. Because, when the vibrational frequency changes, reality has no choice but to change as well. The mirror never fails. It is precise, sincere, and impartial. And for this reason, nothing that happens is unjust, merely congruent. Every outcome is living evidence of the vibrational frequency you have maintained. If you want a different reflection, don't ask the mirror to change, smile first. We have been conditioned to believe only in what our eyes can see, what our hands can touch, what our ears can hear. We've been taught that reality is only what is tangible, quantifiable, verifiable. But the truth is that everything that exists in the material world was first born in the invisible. Everything. Every building, every invention, every brilliant concept. Every achievement. Before becoming matter, it was merely a thought, an image, a vibrational frequency sustained by someone who believed in it even without any external proof. Visible reality is merely the printed result of the invisible realm. Imagine a classic camera with its film. What appears in the photograph is simply the reflection of the negative inside the camera. If the negative is blurry, the image will come out blurred. If it's clear and sharp, the photograph will be flawless. But the mistake most people make is trying to fix the photo after it's developed, trying to mend what's visible, without realizing that the genuine power lies in the negative. Life is exactly like this. Physical reality is the photographic paper. Your particular universe, your ideas, feelings, and convictions, represents the matrix. The challenge is that very few people learn how to adjust this matrix. I've experienced this situation repeatedly. When circumstances seemed unfavorable, I direct my attention outwards, seeking to alter what was presented, my occupation, the setting, the people around me. However, no matter how much I modified the situation, the pattern persisted. This is because the situation was merely the result, not the origin. The perceptible realm is like an old photograph, a delayed record of what you've already conceived internally. What you experience today, what you believe now, is what will manifest tomorrow. And understanding this completely transforms the way you exist. Most people try to alter life by reacting to what they observe. They look at their bank statement and feel fear. They observe their own body and feel discouragement. They contemplate their relationships and experience isolation. And, inadvertently, they strengthen precisely what they do not desire. This happens because emotion is the catalyst of creation. When you feel the lack of something, you are communicating to the cosmos, my vibrational frequency is aligned with absence. And the cosmos simply returns more absence. I recall a period when I myself fell into this trap. I would analyze my organization's results and only see difficulties. Daily, I'd wake up anxious about the bills, tense, mentally repeating, "This cannot continue like this." But everything remained exactly the same. One day, I understood that I was trying to alter the reflection without modifying the resonance. So, I decided to act in an entirely different way. Instead of focusing on what wasn't working, I began to imagine what it would be like when everything was in harmony. I felt the sensation of relief, of abundance, of security. And something extraordinary began to manifest. Without any effort on my part, new clients appeared, opportunities unfolded, and, gradually, the image began to transform. It's crucial to understand that the imperceptible does not equate to the unreal. In fact, reality is the opposite. What is unseen is the source of what is concrete. What you visualize is merely the final stage of the process. It is what has already been completed. If you aspire to a different future, you need to act where creation occurs, within you. It is in this quiet, hidden space, accessible only to you, that everything materializes. Contemporary physics has already demonstrated that all matter is energy at distinct vibrational speeds. And if everything boils down to energy, then what you call physical reality is merely condensed energy, shaped by your own consciousness. This implies that when you focus on what you desire with emotional clarity, you are literally rearranging the energetic field around you. You are providing instructions to the universe about what should become tangible. However, here lies the detail most people overlook: human consciousness has a propensity to cling to what already exists. It holds on to evidence, and this dependence on visual proof creates an unproductive cycle. Because, if you only believe in what you see, you can only generate more of what is already present. It's analogous to driving while only looking in the rearview mirror. You reproduce the past, even while wishing to move towards a distinct future. I have a habit of comparing this to a thermostat. If the environment cools, the thermostat activates the heating to re-establish balance. Your vibration works identically. When you focus on something unfavorable and experience an intense emotion related to it, your internal regulator tries to compensate, but if you persist in the dense emotion, you keep the internal environment frozen. And as long as your interior remains cold, the external world will continue to mirror that coldness. There are individuals who declare, "I believe when I see." But the true architects of the world have always practiced the opposite: "I see because I believe." Thomas Edison conceived the light bulb before it was lit. Orville and Wilbur Wright felt flight before they made the aircraft take off. Steve Jobs envisioned the telephone device known as the iPhone before there was sufficient technology to produce it. They experienced what was not visible as if it were already real, and what was not visible became real. You can achieve this too. The secret is to start giving greater importance to what is invisible than to what is visible. When something has not yet manifested, it is at this stage that you hold the greatest power over it. It is in this realm that you can shape, adjust, strengthen the image with feeling and purpose. The visible world is slow, dense, and already established. The invisible is swift, malleable, and entirely yours. Everything begins internally. If you seek to alter the reflection, don't argue with the mirror. Close your eyes and transform the inner image. Generate the feeling that corresponds to the life you yearn to live. Feel now what you would feel if you had already actualized it. Your mission is not to force the substance, but rather to mold the energy. And when the energy changes, the substance has no alternative but to obey. This is the genuine art of conscious creation. It is the ability to discern beyond what the eyes show, to trust in the imperceptible, to understand that the tangible emerges from within. When you master this practice, the unfeasible ceases to exist. Because the unfeasible is merely that which has not yet been imagined with sufficient fervor. Everything that is perceptible today was once imperceptible. And everything you wish to visualize already exists, merely awaiting for you to perceive it first, not with vision, but with frequency. There comes a moment in the journey when you need to stop reflecting, stop planning, stop waiting for circumstances to become ideal, and simply decide. It is deliberation that alters everything. Not a hesitant deliberation, not a deliberation laden with, perhaps, but an absolute, vibrational decision that establishes a new line of reality. Existence responds with vigor when you decide with conviction. It is at that instant that the universe begins to conspire in your favor, revealing paths that previously seemed hidden. Hesitation is one of the most paralyzing frequencies in existence, for it sends an ambiguous signal: in one moment you desire, in the next you doubt. And the universe, obliging as always, reciprocates in the same proportion, with uncertainty, with stagnation, with inconsistent results. I learned this very clearly when I left my occupation in the Toronto Fire Department. During that period, I received a modest sum, something around a few thousand US dollars per year, and I persuaded myself that that was the most I could aspire to. On a particular day, after reading the book, Think and Grow Rich, something within me shifted. I realized that if I continued acting in the same way, I would continue achieving the same results. Then, I decided. I didn't know the how I didn't possess a detailed scheme, I had no certainty whatsoever. But I chose not to retreat. This resolution resonated within me like a silent directive, a firm frequency, and the cosmos reacted almost immediately. Individuals began to appear, conceptions began to sprout, and opportunities that previously seemed unattainable became evident. This is what most people do not understand: the methodology, The how never precedes the decision. The methodology is a consequence. The instant you truly deliberate is the moment the universe begins to reorganize the pieces on the board. While you await certainty, await guarantee, await someone to confirm, the energy remains diffuse. Clarity is born from commitment. The path only reveals itself after you execute the first movement. Reflect on this. How many times have you avoided doing something out of fear of making a mistake? How many times have you doubted yourself and postponed a desire, waiting to feel prepared? Preparation does not precede, it succeeds. Because when you decide with firmness, the resonance of the decision engenders a new field of possibilities. The energy harmonizes. The right people start finding you. Circumstances adapt to your will. Everything begins to collaborate to your benefit. But it is indispensable that the resolution be integral. An incomplete decision is like a switch that oscillates, sometimes on, sometimes off. The universe needs an unequivocal indication. And this indication does not come from words, but from the energy you sustain. Deciding is not simply uttering, "I desire this," it is feeling that there is no other path but this one. It is closing the doors of doubt and proceeding as if the destiny were already determined. When you make an authentic decision, fear may try to whisper, but it no longer has strength. Uncertainty tries to infiltrate, but finds no room. It's like tuning into a different radio frequency. The noise is still there, but you're no longer attuned to it. What keeps you unwavering is the frequency of conviction, even if the world hasn't changed yet. And it is at this point in the journey that I want to invite you to something uncomplicated, yet powerful. If what I've explained so far has made sense, if something within you is starting to resonate differently, then move on to the next step. Click the like button and subscribe to the channel. It's not merely a digital act, it's an energetic declaration. It's a symbolic way to communicate to the cosmos, I choose to continue my growth. I choose to expand. Energy follows intention, and this simple gesture of decision, even if modest, can be the prelude to a much more significant vibrational shift. Because every metamorphosis begins this way, with a choice. And that choice needs to be felt, not just thought about. It's when you realize that something within you moves, and that movement becomes the new frequency of your existence. No significant transformation materializes until you, with total conviction, determine that it will happen. At that exact moment, cosmic force bows before your firmness. You don't need to understand the methodology. You only need to choose acceptance. For the universe favors the bold, those who place their belief in inner resonance above superficial perceptions. And when you allow yourself to move forward, declaring to yourself, "My decision is now," an imperceptible force begins to operate discreetly, raising non-existent levels and trailblazing the path that is still hidden from you. This is the crucial distinction between those who exist passively and those who build intentionally, the power to resolve with confidence even before the challenge. Determination is the threshold between your current identity and the one you aspire to be. The moment you deliberate, the old begins to fade. Old convictions lose their vigor. Fear loses its voice. Because a genuine choice is not a product of reason, it is a manifestation of the soul. It is the purest vibration of, "I am ready." And when the universe captures that frequency, it acts invariably. Have you ever noticed how, at times, there seems to be an invisible energy pulling you back, even when everything within you cries out for change? It's as if a translucent barrier stands between your current position and your desired destination. You take one step forward and suddenly, something happens, fear manifests, uncertainty amplifies, and you return to the starting point. This isn't bad luck, nor a lack of competence. This is the silent power of mental patterns. They act like programs installed in your subconscious, limiting how far you believe you're capable of going. They are inherited ways of thinking, precepts repeated so many times that they've become intrinsic rules. Getting money is complicated, success is for the few, you have to suffer to achieve. How many of these expressions have you heard? And worse, how many times have you acted as if they were unquestionable truths? These paradigms are mental resonances you emit without realizing it. It's like background music playing continuously, even when you presume you're in silence. You might declare, "I want to prosper," but if your internal software persists in affirming, I don't deserve it. The true frequency the cosmos picks up is that of fear, not of desire. For this reason, countless intelligent, talented, and dedicated people remain trapped in the same results. They change jobs, move cities, alter relationships, but they remain within the same vibrational pattern. Because the true captivity isn't external, it's within you. I remember when I started earning an amount of money I had never imagined. I transitioned from a humble firefighter's salary to an annual income of hundreds of thousands of dollars. And, in a peculiar way, I began to feel uncomfortable with such a reality. Something within me whispered, "You shouldn't be here. This is mere chance. It will soon end." And, guess what? It started to decline. Ventures stagnated, opportunities dissipated, and my energy plummeted. At that time, I didn't understand, but today I know exactly what happened. My old paradigm didn't authorize that new level of success. It was as if my subconscious said, "Return to your equilibrium point, where you feel safe." The problem is that our equilibrium point is rarely where we want to be. Have you ever noticed how, when something favorable happens, a feeling of guilt sometimes arises, as if you weren't deserving? Or when a great opportunity appears, the mind immediately creates justifications. "I don't have time, I don't have experience, what if it doesn't work out?" All of these are defenses of the old program. The paradigm seeks to protect you, but, in reality, it keeps you restricted. It was conceived in a context where surviving was the most one could aspire to. Today, however, what you desire is to live fully, not just subsist. The subconscious doesn't distinguish between what's real and what's imaginary. It only understands what is reiterated with emotional charge. Therefore, the only way to reprogram a paradigm is through the conscious repetition of new thoughts imbued with feeling. Words devoid of emotion are mere noise, but when you feel what you utter, your entire body vibrates in tune with the new truth. This is how a new belief is established. This is exactly what I did. Every day, I handwrote power phrases like, "I am prosperous and worthy of all abundance." It wasn't about memorizing, it was about feeling. At first, it seemed strange, but gradually, something within me began to change. Have you ever heard of MC Hammer? He earned over $40 million and lost everything. Not because he was foolish or irresponsible, but because his paradigm wasn't prepared to sustain such a fortune. Excess money in an unprepared vibrational system is like water in a leaky container, it doesn't stay. This happens daily, with athletes, artists, entrepreneurs, ordinary people. They achieve a lot very quickly, but lose it at the same speed. On the other hand, there are those who start from nothing and build lasting fortunes, because their paradigm is in tune with abundance. It's not luck, it's frequency. Think about it, you can assimilate all the tactics, watch all the courses, repeat all the affirmations in the world, but if your internal paradigm continues to emit scarcity, nothing truly changes. That's why some people say, "But I'm thinking positively and it still doesn't work." Of course, it doesn't work. Because thought is conscious, but vibration emanates from the subconscious. And it's the subconscious that's in control. True change occurs when you make the conscious and subconscious work together, when the new thought converts into a new feeling, and that feeling repeats until it becomes your new frequency. Therefore, the challenge is as follows: for the next 7 days, take a notebook and write 10 times, with concentration and emotion, the following phrase: "I am grateful because I am now attracting opportunities aligned with my new identity of success." Don't just write it, feel it. Visualize yourself living this reality. Imagine the sound, the smell, the touch, the sensation of being in this new state. Do this every day. Because the subconscious assimilates through repetition and emotion. And the more you feel, the faster the old program will begin to dissolve. The truth is, no one escapes a paradigm they don't recognize. Awareness is the first step. The second is reprogramming. You don't need to annihilate who you were, you just need to update who you are. It's like replacing the mind's operating system. The old one said, "Work hard to have little." The new one affirms, "Work with purpose to expand limitlessly." And when this new program installs itself, opportunities arise, doors open. And life seems to conspire in your favor. But, in truth, none of this is magic. It is merely the reflection of your new vibrational state. Because life, always, without exception, gives back what you believe is possible for yourself. There are narratives that seem to serve only to illustrate a universal truth. Internal resonance sustains or destroys everything you achieve. And this isn't just theory, it's pure observation of reality. I have witnessed individuals reach the peak and lose everything overnight, not because the world penalized them, but because the energy supporting their success was not in balance. Think of Mike Tyson, for example. An extraordinary man, possessing unbelievable physical strength and a talent that led him to earn over $400 million. But at the same time, within him, there was a vibrational field charged with anger, guilt, and self-destruction. He fought not only against opponents in the ring, but against his own internal ghosts. And when the inner vibration is chaotic, no fortune remains stable. Money, fame, and power merely became amplifiers of the confusion that already existed within him. That's why everything collapsed. It wasn't misfortune. It was vibration. The universe is too precise to make mistakes. It doesn't grant you what you desire, but rather what you emanate. Abundance demands harmony, balance, an inner feeling of worthiness. When this feeling is absent, even the greatest achievements become ephemeral. It is for this reason that so many people attain something they always yearned for and, still, experience a deep emptiness. They think, but I succeeded, why do I still feel unhappy? The answer lies in the vibrational field. External success without internal expansion is unsustainable. It's like building a towering skyscraper on a foundation of sand. On the other hand, look at people like Oprah Winfrey. She was born into the deepest poverty, facing abuse, rejection, and deprivation. Nothing in her reality suggested she would become one of the most influential and wealthiest women on the planet. But she understood something most people ignore: external reality is merely a projection of internal frequency. Oprah vibrated gratitude when there was no reason to be grateful. She vibrated purpose when everything around her said there was no way out. It was this vibration that began to shape her environment, attracting the right individuals, the opportune moments, the exact timing. She didn't chase success. She became the person success naturally seeks. And that is the distinction between losing and sustaining what you achieve. It is the state of resonance. Think of how many times you've witnessed someone win the lottery and, a few years later, find themselves in a worse situation than before. This happens because money simply amplifies what already resides within. If fear, disorganization, resentment, or guilt exist internally, money intensifies all of it. But if affection, balance, and purpose exist within, money also amplifies those aspects. Vibration constitutes the invisible foundation of everything. Many still assume that wealth is merely the fruit of effort. Effort is relevant, obviously, but it is subordinate. Effort without vibrational alignment only leads to exhaustion. The universe responds to coherence, not imposition. When your thoughts, feelings, and actions are in harmony, everything begins to flow spontaneously. There is no more conflict, only direction. This is what happens when you are tuned into your true state of opulence. And what's most remarkable is that this is measurable. Neuroscience studies show that emotions like gratitude and affection increase heart and brain coherence, forming a more structured electromagnetic field around the body. When this happens, your intuition becomes more refined, your mind more inventive, and your decisions more aligned. This isn't theoretical spirituality, it's physics applied to human consciousness. You literally alter the field around you when you modify the field within you. I recall a period when I started being invited to international lectures, and each event seemed bigger than the last. It was extraordinary, but at the same time, I noticed something peculiar: the audience didn't respond to the content, but rather to my vibration. It was the state I was in that impacted people. It was then that I understood that teaching isn't about speaking, it's about vibrating. Words are just the vehicle, energy is the message. And the same applies to success: money is just the carrier, but vibration is the command. Have you ever noticed how some people simply radiate something distinct? When they enter a room, it's as if the air changes. Everyone wants to be near them, to hear what they say, to learn from them. This isn't innate charm, it's a prevalent vibration. They possess an energetic field so powerful, so attuned to confidence and clarity, that everything around them responds. That's why some leaders transform companies, artists create movements, and entrepreneurs change entire industries. They vibrate something others only long for. Now, imagine the opposite, someone filled with fear, hesitation, and resentment trying to build something great. Even if they possess resources, contacts, and ideas, nothing seems to progress. Results appear and disappear, connections break, opportunities evaporate. It's the same principle. Vibration does not support what has not yet been harmonized internally. Success, when it arrives before alignment, becomes a burden. But when it comes after expansion, it transforms into a legacy. And this is the core of everything I've shared throughout my journey. It's not what you do, it's the state in which you do it. Vibration is the silent language of the universe. It doesn't demand words, promises, or justifications. It simply responds. So, before chasing results, stop and perceive. What are you actually vibrating right now? The fear of losing or the confidence to expand? Because the answer will come, and it will always come in the form of experience. Nothing happens by chance. Everything is vibrational synchronicity in action. There is a crucial moment that presents itself to everyone who decides to transform deeply. It is the instant when the universe begins to test the firmness of your new vibration. And almost always, this test comes disguised as chaos. Things seem to degenerate, people distance themselves, opportunities vanish, and you start to question, am I really on the right path? But that's exactly when the real game begins. The universe doesn't punish you, it merely checks if your faith is solid enough to sustain the new level you are asking for. When you change internally, the old reality tries to resist. It wants to reverse you, wants to show you that nothing has changed. It is the vibrational resonance of your past self. And if at that point you give up, everything that was about to germinate returns to the soil. It's like a seed that breaks through its shell and finds resistance in compact soil. If it retreats, it perishes. But if it keeps pushing, even without seeing the light, it finally emerges and reaches the sun. That's what happens with the energy of your faith. It needs to be maintained even when everything seems the opposite of what you asked for. I experienced this on countless occasions. I recall a phase when it seemed like everything was crumbling. Projects that seemed certain simply fell apart, people distanced themselves, and I began to question myself. My mind said, "See? You were wrong. This doesn't work." But something inside me said otherwise. I remembered the principle, chaos always precedes a new level of order. So I chose to maintain the vibration. And a short time later, things began to restructure in a way I never would have planned. What seemed like a loss was merely purification. The universe was eliminating everything that no longer synchronized with the new frequency I had chosen. How many times have you sensed that you were on the verge of progressing, and something unexpected happened to set you back? An unexpected expense, an illness, a slight, a mistake, a delay. And then the thought comes, I knew it, nothing ever works out for me. But what you don't notice is that this is the decisive moment. It's the point where the universe asks, do you really want this? Do you truly believe in this? Most people succumb here. They interpret the test as a sign to stop, when in reality it's a call to persist. There is an ancient teaching that states, before expansion comes contraction. Which means that before everything expands, something needs to adjust. The obsolete model tries to remain, but it cannot share space with the new. That's why when you start resonating opulence, it might seem that resources become scarce. When you start vibrating self-esteem, certain people pull away. When you start vibrating purpose, the old job becomes intolerable. And that frightens you, I know. But it's a favorable sign. It's evidence that the field is moving. Energy is precise. It doesn't falter, doesn't err, doesn't deceive. It only reacts to what is congruent. And coherence is your ability to maintain a vibration even when there's no proof. Faith isn't about trusting when things go well. Faith is about holding the frequency when problems arise. It's about managing a smile when fear tries to dominate. It's expressing gratitude even without seeing the result. It's continuing to sow, even without seeing sprouts. I remember a disciple who came to me saying, "Bob, I did everything you told me to. I visualized, I felt, I wrote, I gave thanks, but nothing is materializing." And I asked, "How long have you been doing this exercise?" He replied, 2 months. I smiled slightly and said, "So you planted a seed 60 days ago and you're already digging it up because you haven't seen it sprout yet?" He became silent. And I continued, "Flowers only bloom when the grower trusts the natural rhythm. Vibration works the same way. It's not speed that brings results, it's perseverance. The universe is abundant, but it is precise. It doesn't grant you what you want when you want it, but when your vibration becomes synchronized. That's why when you start to change, the tests come. They don't come to punish you, they come to refine you. They remove what is volatile, what is discordant, what still emanates fear. And if you remain resolute, something extraordinary happens, opposition transforms into propulsion. What once trapped you now propels you forward. I often say that tests are like the decisive exam before graduation. They only appear when you are on the verge of advancing. Life doesn't waste resources testing those who aren't ready. So, if you feel like everything is falling apart, perhaps it's not the end. Perhaps it's the dawning of your new phase. Breathe deeply and believe. The energy you maintain during adversity determines the kind of sun that will radiate afterward. It's simple to maintain your vibration when the scenario is favorable. It's arduous to maintain it when things collapse. But that's exactly when you become an architect. Because the Creator doesn't react to events, they reshape them. And each time you choose to believe amidst uncertainty, to resonate amidst confusion, to be grateful amidst scarcity, the universe registers, He is ready. And then, what seemed like an impediment transforms into a pathway. Nothing happens randomly. Every visible obstacle is a disguised opportunity, and every challenge is a chance to prove to the universe, and to yourself, that you are no longer the person you once were. Perhaps someone close to you, a colleague, a family member, someone feeling drained or stuck, needs to hear this message right now. That's why you should share this with them. You have the opportunity to be the vessel the cosmos chose to deliver a fresh perspective to someone. I'm grateful for your presence, for taking the time to expand your perception and energy. Stay connected, as we'll delve even deeper into this journey of growth and understanding next. I look forward to your continued presence.